Anand Maharaj ki.
All praise to the pujaris of Sri Radha Govinda and all the devotees. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihare Bhagavad ki jai, jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Manmana bhava manbhakto Ajajimam namaskuru Mamevaisyaisi yuktvaevam Atmanam matparayana. Bhagavad-gita 9:34, the most confidential knowledge. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee, offering obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So this verse of the Gita is very significant. It is a verse that brings us really the most confidential knowledge. I was reading in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and how Krishna's Kadamba Swami is saying that when he's speaking about this verse, he says, this is the mercy of Krishna, that through instructing Arjuna, he reveals the most confidential knowledge to the entire world. And then he quotes this verse. So to highlight how this verse is really the essence of everything. To somehow or other engage our mind always in thinking of Krishna. How to do that? I knew someone who was always reading a book, day and night. He would, if it rained, he would walk in the street and had a plastic cover over the book, so he could continue reading. Even in the shower, he had positioned a book in a place that while showering, he wouldn't miss a word. But even while performing Harinam, he would get an extra large gong so that he could put a book on the inside and would play the gong while reading. Right. So, would that work? Would that be a way to somehow always engage our mind in thinking of Krishna? Would that do it? I'm not sure. I'm not convinced. When I'm looking at the Bhagavatam or at the Bhagavad-gita, then through these books, one's perception of reality changes. And one gradually begins to see everything in connection with Krishna. For example, in the Bhagavatam, there are chapters that deal with creation. And it's quite technical how the different material elements come into being, one verse after another. And one thinks, okay, do we really need to know all this? Are we going to get now to Krishna, or do we really need to know everything about the creation? But then we have other chapters. Then we have chapters that describe dynasties. And it goes into a long list of names. In the 9th canto, for example, you get these dynasty chapters. And it's just one after another. And this one had that son, and that one had 3 children, and then another name, and another name, and names and names and names of people we never knew and we don't know anything about. And it's just name after name. And you just wonder, shall I skip this chapter? And it's just You wonder, why is it in there anyway? Was it necessary in the Amalam Puranam, in the spotless Purana that is completely transcendental, that these long dynasties are mentioned as well? Oh yes. Because these dynasties are connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is not an ordinary family. In these families, the Supreme Lord appeared. Therefore, just hearing the names, even not knowing these personalities, one is blessed. Because some extraordinary piety was there. Otherwise, I mean, in my family there has not been any Supreme Lord. I don't know about yours. We have had all kinds of personalities in my family. And I don't want to elaborate on that in this lecture. Any other time, I'll tell you in full color. If you want to. We have a colorful family. But to have the Supreme Lord appear in your family means there must be some quality there, something extraordinary. Therefore, all these personalities are actually worshipable, great personalities. When we hear about the creation, it is not so much that we get into the technical deities and that these chapters are dealing with science, to satisfy the scientific mind. No, that's not the real meaning of these chapters. The essence of the chapters is to show that the whole process of creation starts with Krishna, that along the way, Krishna is part of it, and that while the creation has finally been completed, Krishna is still there. Because he expands. First there's the original Krishna. He's performing his pastimes, pleasure pastimes, and he's not bothering with the material world. He has other things to do than answer prayers of people here in New York or anywhere else in the world. He said, a prayer there, okay, let me respond to that one. Oh, a prayer there, okay, they're coming in. God, today it's coming in like anything, as if it is like email or messages or something like that. No, that's not his business. The Lord has so many expansions. And all these expansions, they deal with different aspects of the creation. And in some of these expansions, he remains involved with the material creation throughout. Therefore we see that everything in this world is really going on by the arrangement of Krishna. It is not just that Krishna was the original cause, the prime mover, as they say. He was not just the prime mover, but Krishna remains involved, but through his expansions throughout. And by these descriptions of the Bhagavatam, Krishna comes closer to us. Krishna is no longer far away, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead who was the prime mover of it all, but who is at the same time very remote now. No, he's actually deeply involved with every aspect of our existence. And so, through Srimad Bhagavatam, we see Krishna everywhere. And if we don't see Krishna's face, we see Krishna's hand. And we see how Krishna is controlling and managing and directing his energies. And now it's an intricate arrangement where he personally remains very close to us. So therefore, we read about the creation so that we can see Krishna more closely. In this way, Srimad Bhagavatam changes our vision. We're living nowadays in a mechanistic worldview. The modern worldview sees the universe like a large machine where various forces are in some sort of balance with rotation of planets and magnetic fields and all these kind of things. So all these type of things create the idea that the universe is a big machine and we are in it, and anything can happen any moment. Right? Some big meteor can come flying out of the sky and just knock a huge crater in planet Earth, and so on. That's the modern worldview. But how different is the Bhagavad-gita? How it gives us a very personal worldview, a worldview of involvement of the Supreme Lord and His expansions in the various aspects of material existence. And in that way, we can thoroughly see Krishna everywhere, and we can thoroughly see how we are actually dealing with Krishna every step of the way. And in that way, remembering Krishna becomes very natural. When we see how everything is connected with Krishna, then we will always remember Krishna very easily. Then we don't need to constantly have a book or a picture. I could make an extension on my glasses, right here, like a little pin sticking out to the front, and hang a picture of Krishna. Have you thought of that? Glasses, and you could do it too. All those are glasses for once. We have an advantage. We can actually take advantage of our glasses and put a picture of Krishna there. Could even be electronic, a little screen there. How about that? Yes. No, we don't need that because the picture of Krishna is in front of us. We see how Krishna is manifesting himself in his energies, in this material world. And that is the vision that one develops. In this way, we can deal with the material energy. We do not need to lock ourselves off and sort of always look at a picture of Krishna and not see anything else, even while crossing the street. Look at that picture. No, we can see how actually the entire material arrangement is connected with Krishna. And in that way, we can always think of Krishna. And of course, when we think of Krishna, yes, then we can think of Krishna, that Krishna is never alone. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada is writing concluding words, which I like very much. And in these concluding words, he's at one point mentioning that while he is finishing the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he's doing so for the pleasure of his spiritual master. And although at the time his spiritual master is no longer present on the planet, he is saying that nonetheless he is always with me. Always. And then he begins to describe it. He said, because Krishna is in the heart, and he's always with us. He said, but Krishna is never alone. And therefore, when Krishna is in the heart, all his associates are also there. And not only, his immediate associates, but all his associates, even the spiritual master is also there. Therefore, he's always there, present in the heart. In this way, Prabhupada has a vision of Krishna in the heart, which goes a bit beyond maybe the way we see it. I mean, we kind of think there's the Paramatma and sort of four-armed and sort of in the region of the heart and sort of there. And but now we hear, no, Krishna is there with all his associates. Everything is going on in there. It's busy. There's a lot of activity there. A lot of presence is there. And one can connect with it. I may quickly present this in a kind of light, conversational way, without deeply reflecting on each point. But I leave it to you to stop for a moment on such a point, and then, seriousness connect in the heart with all these personalities. Yes. So all these things are there. In the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava Matasanam Tavartate Iti Matavadantiman Buddhabhava Samavita. He says, Krishna speaks, he says, I am the origin of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything is emanating from me. The wise man who knows this perfectly worships me with love. Now, that especially the last line is interesting, how the wise man knows this perfectly and sees that this whole material world and the whole spiritual world is simply an expansion of Krishna's love. And that the whole purpose of the whole thing is Krishna's unlimited kindness and mercy. Now, that may be a little difficult to kind of visualize when some intense suffering hits us. When we go through serious hardships in this world or see big calamities, then how can we see this world as a world of love? But of course, we cannot see what was before the calamities. We cannot see. We see only a short moment. We don't see the longer time span. We don't see what is deep inside a person. We don't see what someone did in so many lifetimes. We don't see the remnants of these activities. We don't see. Somehow or other I had some adventures in this lifetime, exciting ones. Once I used to travel regularly overland and from west to east through Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and some countries before. And then between Iran and Afghanistan there was a large tract of no man's land. Some 30 kilometers full of tanks and little buses would take people through. On the Irani side, they had a museum of drug smuggling. It was, and everything anybody had ever thought of how one could smuggle drugs, they had it in that museum. From the toothpaste tube to the heel of the shoe to the Easy Rider one of the tube in the fuel tank to to having swallowed the condom and or whatever, right? All the different tricks that people had. They had it all in that museum, and then they showed that. And this is on the border. And then the last picture was a foreigner on a firing squad against the wall, and then the final, and then another picture lying on the ground. It was a good museum. It made an impression on the mind. Some years later, I traveled again through Iran, this time with a group of devotees, and they put us against the wall. They didn't find any drugs, but they thought we were American spies. I'm not American, by the way, fortunately. But they put us against the wall for 4 hours, firing squad. And it was a test of my faith, I must say. I had been chanting Hare Krishna for some years by then, and I stood there against the wall, machine guns on me, and with some other people, a few other devotees and some guests also, and I was chanting Hare Krishna, but not too obvious, because I didn't want to invoke some words. So I stood chanting under my breath. But I was chanting non-stop. But that was not all. I was also moving, but very slow, just like I'm moving now. But you don't see it, is it? But I am moving. I'm moving a little faster now than I did then. I moved as slow as the hand of a clock. And I, sneaky as I am, I slowly went behind my neighbor. And I know that these bullets go through people, still it felt better, let it go through someone else first, before it goes through me. That's what to do. You do crazy things at a time like that. I did. And my faith was tested, and I didn't have the full faith in Krishna. I couldn't at that time really, I was too impressed by what was going on. I was seeing things too separate from Krishna. I was seeing there's Krishna and now there's a firing squad. Somehow or other, okay, I've got to deal with this firing squad, and of course I want to take shelter of Krishna, but I gotta also deal with this firing squad. Therefore I chant Hare Krishna, and at the same time, gotta do something. A crazy plan. If they shoot, I fall behind the other person. If I live, I act dead, and then we'll take it from there. Crazy plan. But better a crazy plan than no plan type of situation. But it also, then I think of Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj, they were about to kill him, deep fry him in oil, or throw him in a pit with snakes, or trample him under elephants, or a few other friendly varieties of the same. And Prahlad Maharaj, somehow or other, he was totally calm. He was never for a moment, not even in anxiety, totally anxiety-free, ready to just see, here's my Lord, and He's benevolent. And here's my own merciful Lord, and whatever He will do, and He has His plan, and it's good. So if I'm meant to die here, then that's His plan, that's fine. And if I'm meant to live here, then that's also good. I mean, that total trust in that Krishna is behind everything, and therefore it is all good. Now, when we say, engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, that's what we're talking about, to see that Krishna is really behind everything, every moment, and that here is the all-loving Supreme Lord, and to fully take shelter. With that full faith, yes, He's here, and He knows what He's doing. I don't know what I'm doing, I don't have to worry. All I have to do is, okay, cooperate, and just remember Him, take shelter of Him, and of course, I try to serve Him, I try to do what I can for Him, but in the end, He decides what the outcome is. That kind of reliance on Krishna is what is required. Being completely absorbed in me. It doesn't just mean to try and always think of Krishna. It means to always think of Krishna with great faith and to fully rely on Krishna. Then, only then one can think full time of Krishna, and only then is that thinking complete, because only then can we think of Krishna with love. Otherwise, it's some sort of dry exercise. Somehow or other, I have to remember Krishna. Somehow or other, I have to chant these 16 rounds. It's so austere. Somehow or other, I gotta do it again. 16 rounds. Because we don't put our full faith in Krishna. Sada Saptadishvas Kahi Suvirin Stai Krishna Bhakti Kaya Savakam Kritahai. That when we put our full faith in Krishna, then we have the firm conviction that all good will come from that. All good will come from that. We simply rely on Krishna. But we don't. We don't rely for our happiness on Krishna. We don't rely for our security on Krishna. We are... And I'm not speaking that we should not make any arrangements for our protection. But still, how far does it go? When you stand in front of a firing squad like I was, and you're trying to hide behind your neighbor, it's ridiculous. It's like, it doesn't make sense. The better thing to do is to become like Draupadi, throw your hands in the air and just say, whatever you want, Lord, now it's all in your hands, there's nothing I can do here anymore. But at that time, I wasn't ready for that. I don't know if I'll be ready for it now, the test. When the gun's at your head, how will you act? It's different. Can only imagine now. So, but this kind of faith is actually what will give us full Krishna consciousness. What will give us full remembrance of Krishna. As long as we think, yes, there is Krishna, and of course Krishna is the supreme controller, and Krishna is the source of everything, and the goal of everything, and then there's Maya. Maya is also there. And of course, ultimate happiness comes with Krishna. But boy, some things in this material world are also really good. So as long as there is that, as long as these two elements are there, a little bit of Krishna, a little bit of Maya, and sometimes it's a bit of Krishna, and other days it's just a little bit of Maya. As long as it's there, then you're with me on the fire, in front of the firing squad. Then you're exactly doing what I did. Then you're hiding behind the neighbor. Then you're going to make a comfortable situation in this material world, and you're going to look where you land, and you're going to look what you're gonna get. You look at if there's something in it for you, and then maybe even, what you do. Then the choices will come. Krishna or Maya, Krishna or Maya, Krishna or Maya. Oh my God! Here comes Maya, and she comes with she has two potencies: the throwing potency, prakseva Shakti, and the covering potency, Avranatmika Shakti. And she comes. And Maya, she is not just outside. Maya is also on the inside. She knows what you think. And she comes and she bounces the golden opportunity under your nose. Ding, 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 ding. And you go, oh no. I tried that before. I know. No. I don't want it. Are you sure? It's good. The mind goes, oh my God, what's this? This is the chance of my life. Why does it come now? I mean, I just joined the Hare Krishna movement. All these years before, it never happened. It never. I was waiting for this. I was waiting for this to happen, and it didn't happen. Finally, I joined the Hare Krishna movement, and now it's happening. What do I do now? If I don't take this opportunity, I'll never forgive myself. Never. Oh my God. What to do? Oh, it's so good. Oh my. It's the trident of Maya, of the threefold Yes, miseries from mind and body, miseries from unliving beings and miseries from natural circumstances, and she just pierces you mercilessly, and it hurts. It's painful. Are you ready? You sure you want to take that opportunity? No, never again. I had enough. Time goes by, and here it comes again. Hey, no, Maya. I know what's coming next. No. But God doesn't look good. Oh, I mean, it is really what I always wanted. It's exactly what I always wanted. It really is. Oh, how can I say? Oh, how can I resist it? You know, that trident, it was painful. It was very intense. It was almost unbearable. But then again, it was short. It was short, you know. I mean, really, it didn't last that long. No, I think that, all right, I'll grin and bear it. Oh, that's so sweet. This is the covering potency of Maya. And we'll develop a philosophy. If you don't suffer, how can you actually appreciate happiness? Yes. This is very right. Yes. Correct. If you don't suffer, how can you appreciate it? Therefore, yes, we just accept the trident. So, this verse is indeed the most confidential knowledge. It is knowledge where we just put our full faith in Krishna and say, yes, Krishna, I know that only with you there will be happiness and nowhere else. And all other things, no matter how much they glitter, how wonderful they present it, it's all fake, all hollow, all empty, doesn't fulfill, just leaves you empty again. Okay, but all for Krishna. Don't you need someone now? Someone to love you? Someone to hold you? Someone, don't you? You're gonna be, don't you need someone who is like you, flesh and blood, to share with and to be with and all that? Maybe you do. Anyway, if so, let that be a devotee. And if so, then we'll see, even there you will not become fulfilled. You can have a nice relationship with someone. You can, if you're lucky. You can get affection. You can get support. You can get care. You can get many things, but you cannot get fulfillment. That you cannot get. And so it's mean to do this on a Sunday, I know, but I'm a sannyasi. And, people walk around with these balloons, these dreams, right? My balloon, yes, on a Sunday afternoon, I got my balloon, got my dreams, got my schemes of how I'm going to enjoy. Oh yes. And then these sannyasis, they come and they have a pin. And they mercilessly just like, bang! Smash the whole bubble, yeah. So I enjoy doing that. What to do? It's, yeah. Anyway, no. The more we just turn fully to Krishna, the more happiness there will be, the more real fulfillment there will be. And that's for everybody. Doesn't matter who we are. But it doesn't mean we have to turn away from the world. It doesn't mean that we cannot live. It doesn't mean that we have to lock ourselves up and that we cannot interact or that we cannot appreciate. It doesn't mean we have to close our eyes and cannot see the beauty in this world. We can, but we see Krishna in the beauty of this world. It's not that we live a dry life. Oh no. A life full of taste, a life full of color, more than before. Before it was dull and dry, same old thing, you know. It's like, the fashion is gray, everywhere, gray. I try to find something that's not gray, it's really tough. You know, gray. Okay, go black. So, if I wear black, people will say, he's got his black hat on, which is sort of too serious, so I go gray. The gray is a bit dry, isn't it? Color. So there is so much color in Krishna consciousness, because we're ready to explore, ready to rather than turning away from the world, rather to take up the world. One time, I came to this temple many years ago, and I had just arrived, I just flew across the Atlantic and just came in. I was upstairs, and Rama Swami, who was in charge, comes out of his office and looks around feverishly and sees me and says, "Can you drive?" So he pinned me sort of against the wall, so I can. So I said, "Yeah, I can. He said, "Great, we have a driver." I said, "Okay." I didn't tell him he'd be flying, you know, but anyway, I'm a driver. So it sounded okay. By the time we walked around the corner, it turned out it wasn't a car, it was a yellow truck, a flatbed on the back, and it had a Hare party on the back. I don't even have a license for a thing like that, but it was too late to say no. Next moment, I'm driving this truck to New York, 7, 8 lanes, traffic, and I have no driver to guide me through New York. He goes, "Turn left here." You know, I cut 7 lanes of traffic. Almost got shot, I tell you. Anyway, and then I'm driving, sweating, and like thinking, if they ever catch me driving this thing, you know, they're gonna lock me up. And God knows what's gonna happen. I haven't got a license for this. Then I heard police sirens from all sides. All sides. 7 police cars, 8 police cars coming from everywhere. And then they went past me onto the sidewalk and got one small boy who had been involved in shoplifting. I was sorry for the boy, but happy for myself. I got off. I would have never done such a thing in my life if it wouldn't have been for Krishna. If somehow or other I wouldn't have had that sense of if a senior Vaishnava asked me to do something, I'll just surrender. So I surrendered and did it alone. Because that's the excitement. To, instead of doing your own thing and say, I'll do what I want, to just become an instrument in the hands of great personalities. That is actually very adventurous and very nice. Because these personalities, they have a vision which goes beyond us, and if we surrender then, well, we'll also be protected. We hope, while you're driving a yellow submarine through the streets of New York. You hope you're protected. Anyway, maybe that was an extreme application of a principle, maybe it was not exactly the way to apply it. But the principle that we let superior personalities direct us in our life is something that was completely alien to me before I came in contact with the Bhagavad-gita. But yes, to always engage one's mind in thinking of Krishna is only possible if we become the instrument of one who is always thinking of Krishna. One cannot do this on his own. Take the Bhagavad-gita home and try to implement this verse in your life. Good luck. It's not going to work. You won't be able to do it. You can only always think of Krishna when you dedicate yourself to one who is always thinking of Krishna. That's how it is. And when we always think of Krishna, then you see things as they really are. Instead of looking at the little things by themselves. Oh, look at this little dinky toy. Oh, no, so nice. There's a universe around it. You only see the toy? Look at my new computer. Oh, my new phone. Like this. Look at my new relationship. All the small things. What about the big picture? Oh, Krishna is the bigger picture. We can only see that when we follow one who's seeing the bigger picture. That is why in the middle of this temple room, Srila Prabhupada is seated on a huge throne, because he exactly had that consciousness to such a point that whoever connected with him automatically start thinking about Krishna. And the more one connects with him, one starts to think about Krishna. And even now, it was in his presence, and it's even now, still like that. The more we connect with Prabhupada, the more we think about Krishna. Okay, that was my meditation that I shared with you on this verse of the Bhagavad-gita. And I tried to bring in a personal element so that it become a little more human. And since we are all human and we all have similar personalities, I hope you could relate to some of my predicaments. If anyone has a question, I'll try and answer that shortly, otherwise I'll stop now and then there will be some kirtan for the rest of the evening, I think. Please,
I really appreciate the point you made, Maharaj, about in terms of this verse, that we should think of Krishna as recommending that we think of him always. And you elaborated on that to do that, actually, one has to see how Krishna is working in it. And that's a really beautiful point. And it almost becomes like that's a great point for meditation throughout our day. So that we want to fix our mind on. So the point is given so much here in the Chant. Fix your mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. You kind of took it actually two steps, 2 points you made it. That how is Krishna's lotus feet and Krishna's plan in everything that's happening to us? Yeah. And then you also further elaborated that if we're putting ourselves in the hands of someone who's directly connected to Krishna, such as Guru, then that becomes more viable. So I just really appreciated that, those subtle distinctions, and I just want to comment for some appreciation and as a point of meditation to really apply.
There's a book which was which includes the writings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then there are some quotes that he used to give. and one is from the Rig Veda. Let the world look upon me with loving eyes, and let me look with loving eyes upon the world. And I really like that also, to kind of look at the world like that. That there's a world that looks upon me with loving eyes, rather than a world that hates me. Yeah? You know, I can live in this inimical universe, you know, sort of shelter myself. The cold hits my face, just like the smoke, the everything, you know, the whole world around me is like, and then if I look at the world that looks upon me with loving eyes, then I can in turn also turn to that world and look with loving eyes. And ultimately that means to see how Krishna is behind it all and looks at us with loving eyes. And okay, it takes a little bit of philosophical depth to really see the harshness as a symptom of loving eyes. But then if I see the harshness in myself, then I have a lot of harshness in myself. And when I see it, then I can appreciate that I need some harshness to shake me out of this. So then I can sort of take that also as a loving correction, and in this way I can see how the world is looking upon me with loving eyes, and Krishna behind it. And then I can look back at it, at that world with loving eyes, and then at Krishna with loving eyes. But if I try to separate the world from Krishna, and I hate this world, but I try to love Krishna, that's going to be hard. That's one thought.
I was listening to a lecture this morning by Chant, and Prabhupada was talking about how in his life, he was talking about the same principle about it. It was a verse in the Bhagavad-gita about all the calamities that the converts would experience, and how it was Maharaj was asking how is it that these are Krishna's direct family members, how they experience chakra.
Yeah.
Prabhupada was relating in his life an instance where he was gored by a bull. He was saying that after that situation, he was in tremendous tribulation. But as he reflected on it, he saw Krishna's divine plan and it was Krishna's loving mercy upon him.
Yeah.
And so that principle we see again and again in Bhagavatam is a symptom in advances of is how they deal with reversal.
Yeah.
And see them as Krishna's love and affection to somehow bring them to another level of realization.
Okay, I don't know if you heard all of that. I'll summarize it really short. Basically, how the Pandavas went through so much suffering, and that the question was raised, why Krishna's devotees had to go through so much suffering, how Prabhupada also went through suffering at the time when he was gored by a bull, how much trial and tribulation, but seeing how Krishna is behind all that. And I've also been thinking about Prabhupada and all his difficulties. And I was thinking, yeah, imagine if it would have all been easy for Prabhupada. And it could have been, because he was a pure devotee. But then we would have all said, yeah, for Prabhupada, Krishna made it easy because he was a pure devotee. But we're struggling. But right now, it was more difficult for him than it will ever be for us. It's like we have, Krishna.com, wherever you go, I travel around the world, traveling around the world into unknown territory, only to check Krishna.com, where's the nearest temple, where's some prasada. Wherever we travel, we have a shelter. Prabhupada arranged it. Kanana Swami tells the story. He wanted to go somewhere where no one had been, do some pioneering preaching. He went to New Guinea. He arrived in a hotel, and the receptionist was reading Prabhupada's book. And it was everywhere, It's like the whole world is just Prabhupada. So Prabhupada had to undergo more difficulty than any of us. And in this way, we can find the strength in his example to deal with our own difficulties. So Krishna had to make it difficult for him. if only for that reason. Otherwise, we would have said, yeah, for him Krishna made it easy. Not we. For us, it's too difficult. We just can't do this. Now we have no excuse. Now if we say it's too difficult, only means it's our laziness and a lack of faith. We don't think Prabhupada can uplift us above these difficulties. Anyway, you can go on and on and on till midnight also. So I guess I should not do that. We'll save it for some other time. But it is a pleasure to be here with you today, and I'm not running away. I'll be here for a while. Planning to spend more time in New York in this year. I'll come 2 months now, come again in June, then come in August for 2 weeks, then come again in October for 2 weeks, coming again in December for 2 weeks, all with the plan to help to get this place more alive and maybe do something more in the city as a whole. And let's see how that goes.